Hello students, I am Dr. PC Cambodia, Associate Professor in the Department of English, BSR Government Arts College, Alwar, Rajasthan. This video is for MA Final English Literature Paper First, Principles of Criticism. Today we shall take up plot construction in Aristotle's Poetics. Aristotle says that plot is the life and blood of a tragedy. It is the first principle. Plot is a series of well-knitted events that happen logically according to the rules of probability and necessity. Aristotle says that plot has got three parts: beginning, middle, and an end. Beginning is that before which nothing comes. Middle is that before which some part of the plot comes, and after that some part of the plot comes. And the end is there, and after that end, no part of the plot is there. But if we pay attention to the modern tragedies written in 20th century, then we come to know that after the end of a plot, there is a part called as an epilogue. Say for example, Bernard Shaw composed a tragedy, Saint John, the Joan of Arc, in which the epilogue has been added. Once a famous critic, Anderson, asked in an interview to Bernard Shaw that when end has been there of the tragedy of Joan of Arc or Saint John, why he had added the epilogue. Then Bernard Shaw himself replied that Saint of Joan has been deified. She has been given the cadre of sainthood. The epilogue provides a justice to her because she appears from heaven and asks those persons who were against him, the authorities of the church. So according to Aristotle, the parts of tragedy, that is beginning, middle, and an end, does not fit to the modern construction of tragedy as we have an epilogue after the end. Then the great teacher Aristotle says that there are three types of plot: simple plot, then complex plot, and then episodic plot. Simple plot is that in which there is no discovery or anagnorisis, and there is no reversal or peripety. Complex plot has got reversal as well as the discovery. He says that discovery is proceeding from ignorance to knowledge, and then reversal is a sharp turn in the plot. It is the point where plot veers off. He quotes one example of the tragedy of Oedipus, composed by Sophocles, in which the discovery is there and reversal is also there. In order to understand what is the discovery over there and what is reversal over there in the tragedy of Oedipus, we shall have to pay attention to the main points or the story of this tragedy. In ancient Greek Empire, Thebes was there, and Thebes was ruled by the king Laius. He had a queen whose name was Jocasta. A son was born to them, and that son, who was in an infant stage, was taken to an oracle. That was oracle at Delphi. Oracles are the person who prick the hot needles into the bones which they have with them, and then designs of the bones are developed, and with the help of those designs and the position of the celestial bodies at the time of birth of a newly born baby, his horoscope is prepared. The horoscope of Oedipus was also prepared, and the oracle at Delphi said that this baby, whom he named as Oedipus, would one day kill his father and marry his mother, that he would commit the incest of marrying his own mother. When Laius and Jocasta heard about this, they were helpless. And now there are several versions of the myths in which they dealt with this newly born infant. According to one version of the myth, they gave that baby to a slave to be taken to a place which was haunted by the ghosts and devils, and they thought that baby would die over there when the baby would be unattended. According to another version of the myth, the baby was thrown from a bridge into a river, where the monks recovered that baby, kept the baby for 15 years, and then made the baby free because they could no longer look after that young chap. Yet there is another version of this myth that infant was placed in a basket, and then he was taken to a river and then left the basket with the little baby floating on the surface of the river down the stream. It was recovered by a fisherman who brought the baby up, reared the baby, became the young person. In all the 4-5 versions of the myth of Oedipus, how he kept himself alive, he remains alive, and one day he develops a quarrel at the crossroad with the king Laius. He does not know that the king is his own father. He slays his own father, murders his own father, and then marries his own mother. This fact that he had married his own mother didn't come to know at that very time, and he had 4 children begotten from his mother, whom he didn't know that the lady whom he had married is his own mother. Then a curse fell on the land. A messenger from Corinth was sent to the oracle at Delphi to uplift the curse and to know the reason of the curse. The oracle at Delphi told them that the king, the sitting king, Oedipus, had committed the incest of marrying his own mother unknowingly. He had killed or murdered his father unknowingly. Therefore, there is the curse on their land. Then Oedipus was not ready to accept this. First of all, he said that the lady whom he had married is not his mother. The wife of such and such fisherman is his mother. But oracle at Delphi knew the proceedings of this case, and we know that oracles are the persons who know the issues and solutions to such unknown facts. The oracle said that when Oedipus murdered his father, there were the other onlookers. Witnesses were there, some persons were there, such and such persons were there. They should be called and they should be asked. They recognized that Oedipus was the slaughterer of his father unknowingly. And Jocasta was also told a false information that some robbers had murdered her husband Laius, and it was not he. But a discovery was made that who was the mother of Oedipus, whom Oedipus had married and whom he had slain. So this discovery brings a reversal. Reversal in the sense that messenger from Corinth went to the oracle at Delphi, and he thought that he would let the king know the reason of the curse, and curse would be afflicted. Therefore there would be an atmosphere of festivity and everyone would enjoy. But to his great surprise, the King Oedipus committed suicide himself, and Jocasta blinded herself. So this example Aristotle quotes for reversal and discovery. Then episodic plots are also there. According to Aristotle, episodic plots are the worst, because one has to keep in mind the length of the tragedy. In episodic plots, the length of the tragedy is not maintained. The plot is to run for a particular time period, because the spectators come to visit the theater in order to witness a tragedy. They take their own time. So plot has to run according to their timings for a particular length. In order to explain how lengthy a plot should be, Aristotle gives an example from organic beauty. He says that if there is an organism which is too tiny, then we shall not be able to look it properly. Because of its miniatured size, our vision would be blurred and we will take no time to look at it. We shall not be able to appreciate its beauty. And on the other hand, if there is huge organism or an animal and we look at it, then in a single frame of our sight we shall not be able to see the entire animal. Rather, we shall have to change our vision, or we shall have to change our frame of looking, and all those frames are to be put together, and we shall not be able to appreciate beauty, because that organism has been grafted in several frameworks. So is the length of tragedy. Tragedy should not be so small so as to finish itself within no time, nor its plot should be so lengthy so as not to be remembered in our memory. It should be of proper length that should be retained in our mind. Then Aristotle talks about fatal plot and the fortunate plot. Fatal plot are those plots wherein a person of high reputation, say for example king, meets his doom and is reduced to an ordinary man, or rather a beggar who has nothing. And on the other hand, fortunate plot is just opposite to the fatal plot. In fortunate plot, an ordinary man who has nothing, no fortune, rises very high or becomes successful. Aristotle advocates the use of fatal plot in tragedies because it arouses the feelings of pity and fear. Then the great teacher Aristotle says that in a tragedy we can make use of the incidents from history, but it is not always essential that historic facts are to be included in a tragedy. Whatever that can happen, whatever is probable, can also be included in the plot of a tragedy. He says that whatever goes on in plot construction should be according to the laws of probability and necessity. He says that if any incident is taken out of the series of incidents and it does not make any impact, overall impact, then that part is not essential and that can be removed. But on the other hand, if any part or incident which is a link of the series of incidents is taken out and it disturbs the entire series of the events for plot construction, then that part or event is essential and it should not be removed. Aristotle says that a tragedy is possible without characters, but not without plot. We understand that Aristotle is highlighting the importance of the plot in comparison to the importance of characters. We know that tragedy is not possible without characters. Characters are also required. Otherwise, who will stage the tragedy in front of the spectators? But the great teacher wants us to understand that plot is more important in comparison to characters. Characters come at the second place, and he identifies these 6 elements of tragedy: plot, character, thought, diction, melody, and spectacle. We shall be taking the next topic of this series of lectures in the next issue.